You've interfaced, as you've said, with pastors and many others on this issue. So from that regard, we've seen how that the biblical view of any type of sexual behavior other than what God prescribes as being between a husband and wife, over the last generation, it has become less sacred. So the standard has been torn down. Now there are other mentalities, sexual choices that are being put out there, as you're describing, almost as legitimate as food choices or a house choice almost. That's the normalization part you're talking about. But can you describe a little bit more in detail, how is the LGBTQ strategy actually infiltrating the church and the pulpits of America? What arguments are they using that are becoming persuasive in allowing the church and the pulpits and seminaries to embrace it? How's that happening?
Well, it started in about 2001, and you had the Gay Christian Network, Justin Lee, who wrote the book Torn, became friends with Alan Chambers, who was the largest, this is in recent history. There was, of course, other things that happened in our history. But as far as the church is concerned, then Exodus went off the rails which Exodus International was the largest network of ministries offering hope to help people overcome homosexuality. And so the message of antinomianism, which is hyper grace, or the same as the teaching of the Nicolaitans, it doesn't really matter what you do in your body because God, His grace covers you, which is, in direct opposition to Jude the only chapter, Jude 1, verse 4, which says that, turning the grace of God into lasciviousness is actually denying Jesus as Master and Lord. And so this began to happen along with, in about 2010, the Mark Yarhouse white paper came in to the Gospel Coalition, sanctioned by the president of the Gospel Coalition, D.A. Carson. These men began to perpetuate the idea that rarely does orientation change. So you have the orientation word coming into the PCA, the Southern Baptists, mainline biblical believing churches that now just call it, orientated same-sex attraction, and they dumb down the words so that it makes it softer. And that's exactly what they're doing with that plus sign, is not necessarily the church leaders, but the APA mixing this all in, and now they're wanting to even redefine the word pedophile to maps and yaps. That would be a minor attracted person, prepubescent attractions, and youth attracted person, yaps. And so that's postpubescent attraction, which are legitimate orientations, and they want to change the lower the consent laws. And so this is diabolical in what's coming into the church, and people are buying into some of this because they have family members. And Sam, you may have remembered, I asked a group of almost 200 plus people in that room, and almost every single hand went up and asking the question, do you know someone gay or have a gay family member? And so this is what's going on in our culture, and it's coming into the church because they're bringing a false compassion. And if you try to say anything otherwise, you're kind of labeled like the Westboro gang people. You're hateful, homophobic, you're bigoted, you're unloving. So this is what we're up against.